Hello, how are you? I hope you're having a lovely week. We are off to the charity shops today on a very special mission. My daughter Blossom is 8 years old and she loves to read and do colouring in when she's going to bed. And she's asked me if I could put together a little shelf to go beside her bed that she can keep her colouring pens and books on. Bonus points if we can make it furry themed. So as you can imagine, I'm pretty excited for this project. I love to do any kind of projects in my daughter's bedroom because she loves bright colours, sparkles, kind of preppy. So it means I get to pretend that I'm a little child again, which is awesome. So hopefully we get everything we need today, but you know, sometimes the cosmic powers, the thrift gods, they want you to go back tomorrow, maybe try a different location, but fingers crossed we get everything we need today. So let's go.
New generation of family members who are carrying on that fight for justice, and it really is a very emotional.
To get the creative juices flowing, I decided to start with an easy task. So like I said, my daughter is obsessed with reading at the moment, so I had a look in the children's book section in the hopes of finding a furry or enchanted themed book that we could add to our little shelf. I also found this really cool drum which I think you could repurpose into something even cooler. You can't guarantee you're going to find what you're looking for in the charity shops. But one thing is for certain, there will be 1,000,001 picture frames. So I thought it might be cute if I could find a couple of adorable picture frames that I could put some pictures of fairies in, maybe a Tinkerbell quote. I did love this little heart picture frame. I did get that, but for a different project I'm doing for Valentine's Day in a few weeks. And then I spotted these two lovely little flower picture frames and I figured they'd be perfect. Flowers, furries, a perfect match. I found this beautiful little ring box, trinket box. I loved it. I thought it was really gorgeous, but I felt it was a little bit too mature for my daughter at the moment. One of my top priorities in this project was to find a cup or some type of holder to put all of my daughter's colouring pens and markers in. There was a ton of options, jugs, little glass vases, wicker baskets. It was a tough choice. I hadn't planned on adding any new bedding or pillows, but when I saw this, I thought the colours might go really nicely with what we're trying to do, so I did consider this. There was also this really big pink fluffy throw, which I thought she would love that. I saw some artificial flowers and I thought, could I DIY that? Could I change the colour of the flowers maybe? Now for the most important part of the entire project, the shelf itself. I did go to a furniture charity shop and I was looking for just an ordinary wooden shelf, and I figured I could paint it or add some wooden emblems to the sides to try and make it more fairy themed. And then I spotted this wicker basket and I did consider just hanging the wicker basket on the wall and she could pop her books and colouring pens into the basket. And then just as I was getting ready to leave, I spotted this beauty. It's made from a heavy resin plaster material, and I can tell just from looking at it that this likely came from TK Maxx originally. I love it. I think it just screams enchanted and it's the perfect size for this project. Another request my daughter had was a little lamp to go on the shelf so that she could read at night time. As always, you will find 1,000,000 lamps at the charity shop and they are beautiful ones there today, but because of the size of the shelf, I needed one with a small base and a small shade, and I spotted this little pink one. The shade had some damage, but I was confident that I could recover it in a different fabric that I could also find at the charity shop. Once I got home, I decided to start with an easy task again, which was the little shelf. I really love this little shelf, and I wish that it didn't have any damage and I could have kept it the original color because I think it's beautiful. But I'm grateful that there was very little damage to it. So all I needed to do was take a fine grit sandpaper and sand down the water stain. Once I got the surface smooth, I cleaned the shelf and then I started to spray it. Like I said, I really love the color of this little shelf and I wish I could have retained that color. I could have went out and bought a spray paint to match this exact color, but this is a budget project and we work with what we've got. So I was happy that I had a spray paint in a similar color. It's not exactly the same, but it's close enough. I also loved the original distressed effect on the front of the shelf, so in my attempt to imitate that, I used a little bit of matte white spray paint. I sprayed it over the front and then quickly wiped away any excess and rubbed the paint into one direction. Now obviously you can do this with paint and a paintbrush and you probably would have got a nicer effect doing that, and I kind of took the lazy way out here, I fully admit that, but I think it turned out really beautiful considering how quickly it was resprayed and had the detail added. Now for the little flower picture frames. I had planned on simply spraying these picture frames one color and leaving it at that, and I thought it would be the quickest and easiest part of the entire project. But when I opened up the back and tried to remove the glass, I realized that the glass had been glued in place. And I knew that if I tried to take the glass out and force it out, it was going to break the glass. So I was a little bit stuck here and I had to put my thinking cap on. And obviously if you have a straight frame, you can use tape and newspaper to cover the glass while you spray it. But because the edges of this frame were flowers, they were petals, it would have been really difficult to try and get masking tape into all the little crevices. So after a little while of thinking and stressing myself out, I came up with an idea which may seem unusual, but it did work. I folded a piece of cling film into a rectangle and then put it over the top of the glass and then slowly pushed the cling film into all the crevices. And because the cling film was sticking to itself, it held the shape really well and it stuck to the glass quite well as well. This was a complete shot in the dark. I'd never done this before, so I really didn't expect it to work anywhere near as well as it did, but it worked perfectly, and it took a little bit of fiddling and a little bit of time just to get it all into place and in between all the little petals. But when I was finished and I took the cling film off, there wasn't a bit of spray paint on the glass at all, and this would have been a lot quicker than the masking tape, that's for sure. I chose a summer sage kind of chalk finished furniture paint to spray these picture frames. I actually got this spray paint in the pound shop, so if you're ever needing cheap spray paint for a small project like this, I really recommend their spray paints. They're £2.50 and they work great if you only need it for a small item. The frames look great in the chalky green finish, but because it is for my daughter's room, I wanted to add a little bit of colour and bring the furry theme to life. So I grabbed a little paintbrush and I just randomly started colouring some of the little flowers around the frame. I used pink, yellow, white and some peach. Just a few of the flowers here and there, and I think it brought it together beautifully. I printed out this adorable furry picture that I found on the internet, and in the small frame I added a Tinkerbell quote. Everything had been going really well so far, but it was at this point that I hit a bump in the road. So if you remember, I picked up this little pink lamp at the charity shop for £1. It even came with a light bulb, and I can't explain to you the excitement and gratitude I feel when I buy a secondhand lamp and it already has a light bulb in it. I don't know why, this makes me so excited, but this lamp was £1. You're never going to find a light bulb you can buy for £1, so it's just such a bargain. I love that. But the lampshade did have damage to it. Now my plan was to remove the fabric on the lampshade and add new fabric that I also got in the charity shop. And I struggled to make a decision on the fabric. I didn't choose just one fabric or two, Or 3, I chose 4 different types of fabrics, and I spent more time than I care to admit choosing which fabric I was going to use for the lampshade. And after all my consideration, I finally made the choice, and I sat down and started to cut the old fabric off the lampshade. It was at this point that I knew I had messed up. So I've messed up, obviously. I assumed there was metal bars connecting the top to the bottom. There's not. So I have no idea how to salvage this. And I've sat for the past 5 minutes, beat myself up, thinking you've ruined the project now, because I really wanted to get it all finished before Blossom comes home from school so I could surprise her, and now we've hit a bump in the road. So I went around the whole house looking for a similar size lampshade, because if you've seen any of my other videos, you know I'm obsessed with lamps. So I have a lot of lamps in my house, but I can't find any small enough. There's small ones, but they're too wide to fit on the little shelf. So I had all but given up hope, and then I remembered that I have this really beautiful lamp in my bedroom, and I thrifted it a while ago. Ta-da! It fits perfectly on the little shelf, and it's a similar style. The base is ornate, similar to the shelf. So I think this might actually work really well. But the colors are a little bit too muted, maybe a little too mature for the shelf and the rest of the decorations we have. So I think we need to give it a little makeover and add a little colour to the piece. Now I could take the lampshade off and add it to the little pink hexagonal base we have, but now that I'm really looking at it, I think the base on this one is going to be even better than the little pink one. Don't you think? I think it will, yeah. So I think it's all happened for a reason. I messed up that lampshade for a reason. The universe knew that I should use this lamp instead. I think that's what's happened here. So I got to work making this beautiful little lamp more colourful. I chose sun yellow for the base because I knew I would later be distressing it, so the yellow wouldn't be as vibrant later on. For the little lampshade, I didn't have any fabric dye. I could have cut the fabric away and replaced it with the other fabrics that I chose from the charity shop, but I really liked the flower embroidery on this lampshade, so I wanted to keep the shade as is. I just wanted it to be a different colour. I didn't have any fabric dye, but I did have this lovely candy pink spray paint left over from a previous project. But I was nervous. I had never spray painted fabric before, especially not a lampshade. And I'd already destroyed one lampshade today. I didn't want to destroy another one, especially not this little beautiful lampshade. So I was nervous, to say the least. Whilst the lampshade was drying, I went back to the base. The yellow had dried at this point, so I grabbed more matte white and sprayed a little bit over the base and then just wiped away any excess, just like I did with the shelf. And it was just a really quick and lazy way of getting a distressed look. I also used a little paintbrush to make lines up and down the stem of the lamp. Now back to the lampshade. The spray paint had dried fully, but as you can see, it had created a kind of stiff fuzz over the top of the fabric. So I wasn't sure how to handle this, but I was willing to experiment. So I got sandpaper of the finest grit that I had, and I just very, very gently, barely touching the surface, rubbed it across the fabric. And it did lift off most of the fuzz, but you can see some parts at the beginning where I wasn't sure how aggressively to rub, that I damaged the embroidery. After that, I learned that I need to do it slower and softer, and I managed to preserve most of the embroidery detail. I wouldn't recommend this method. I think that I just got lucky that I didn't really badly damage the fabric. But it did work to take away the fuzzy parts and make the fabric smooth again. On my hunt to find a pot to hold my daughter's colouring pens and markers, I found these two little ceramic pots in a charity shop. I'm pretty sure they were handmade because they didn't have any markings or labels, and they were perfect. They had butterflies and flowers on them, perfect for the fairy theme, and they also had little touches of purple, which was a colour I hadn't yet added to the display. I love the thrift handmade items because you know someone put so much time and energy and love into making them, and they're completely unique. You're never going to find a replica like this again. I always wish that there was some way I could tell the person who made the item that it is being admired and cherished in my home. And I know it's really hard to donate handmade items if they're given to you because it's sentimental and you feel bad, don't you, donating something that was specifically made for you. But I always see it as, you know, an item wants to be admired and on display and appreciated, and having it stored away in a cupboard for years, it's not really getting much love in that way, is it? So if you're on the fence about donating something, maybe it's not your vibe anymore, or you just don't really use it anymore, try to remember that there's people like me who will go to charity shops and thrift shops and we'll buy it and bring it to our home and we'll love and cherish it. So don't feel bad about donating handmade items. Know that they're going on to be loved by someone else. I bought this glass decanter bottle originally to make a witch's potion at Halloween time, but at the last minute I had an idea. Instead of making a witch's potion, what about we made a fairy potion? I added some pink food colouring, gold metallic paint and some white sparkly glitter to a jug of water, and I stirred for a very long time in order to get this beautiful shimmery effect potion. Once I filled the decanter, I used my hot glue gun to secure the little lid on top so that none of the water could leak out. Then it was time to decorate the bottle. I used Canva to design this little fairy potion label. I cut it out and stuck it on the front. Then I used this jar of beads and broken jewellery. I got this jar for £1 and I'd actually got it for a different project, but I saw some beads in there that I thought would look beautiful on this fairy potion bottle. So I used my hot glue gun to add some fake pearls around the label, and then I hot glued some yarn around the very top of the bottle, and just perfect serendipity, there was a little fairy charm in that jar, so I added that to the top as well. And to complete this magical potion, I used my hot glue gun to try to make a melted wax effect on the top of the lid. Once the glue had hardened, I used a glittery nail polish to add a little bit of shimmer to the melted wax. It was so much fun making this little magical potion, and when I showed Blossom, she loved it, and now she wants to make more of them with me. So I'm on the hunt now for more decanter bottles so that we can make different fairy potions, and come Halloween, we'll be making lots of witches' brews. I have one last thing to add. I'd almost completely forgotten about these little birds. They're ceramic and I got them in a charity shop for 50p for them both. I love them, I think they're adorable, and they really remind me of a Disney movie. They look really Disney inspired to me with the little eyelashes. And with that, my daughter's furry themed shelf is complete. My total cost was less than £10 and my daughter loves it. It's always interesting to me to see how a project finishes up when you're buying everything secondhand, because it's not like you're going to an ordinary shop and you can pick out exactly what you're looking for. I started this project knowing, okay, I need a shelf and I need a lamp, and it would be nice if I could make it furry themed. But you can't control what's going to be in the charity shops, and you can't control if you're going to make a mistake and have to change something in the middle of the project. So you don't really know how it's going to end up, and for me that's really exciting. I love to see the end result and I'm thinking that is not how I pictured it in my head at all. It's 10 times better. So that's it for today's crafting. My daughter loved her little furry shelf and she can't wait to go to bed tonight and read her little books. So thanks for coming along. I hope I made it fun and I hope it was enjoyable, and I hope I could give you some inspiration and encourage you to shop secondhand as well. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye bye.